All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the Million Dollar Relationships podcast. And today I am here with Giuseppe Grammatico. Giuseppe, welcome, man. Awesome to have you here today.
Kevin, thank you, and you nailed the pronunciation. That's a difficult name, but looking forward to it. Really
Well, I'll
excited.
tell you, I want to be completely candid. I went to your LinkedIn page and you had a video on there where you said your name,
Oh,
and I'm like, okay, I'll make sure I get it right.
that's it. That's it. Right. I did that because I've had my name butchered. So awesome. Yeah, that was a smart idea, smart choice.
There you go. There you go. And I know you and I were talking a little bit before we hit the record button, and it's always so awesome when me being a relationship guy and placing such a high value on relationships, it's really cool because pretty much everybody that I meet in my life, at least, it comes through a connection from somebody I already know. And of course,
Right.
you and I were connected via Eddie Hill. And I'd done a podcast interview with Eddie a while back, and Eddie's like, Kevin, you got to interview Giuseppe. He would be awesome. And so here we get connected. The first time you and I ever talking, but yet it just feels like we've been friends forever. And
Yep.
so,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No. Yeah. Absolutely. Been looking forward to it. I know Eddie's a great guy. Had him on the show as well. So
yeah, yeah. So what we'll do is I'd like to start by just turn over to you and have you share a little bit about what you do, who you serve, what inspires you to do what you do, and we'll just kind of start there and set some context and a little, let everybody know like who is Giuseppe and what are you all about?
yeah. So in New Jersey, married, two children, born and raised in the state, and first generation. My family was from Italy, so actually earned the English language at the age of 6, and grew up in the restaurant business. And the biggest thing was going to college, getting a great job, and not having to work those long hours in that restaurant. And fast forward. Loved the restaurant business. Didn't like the hours. The holidays, the weekends. It was always, basically the opposite of everyone else's hours. And decided to go to college. Did really well. Worked on Wall Street. Wasn't thrilled about what I was doing. So decided I was still living at home. I went back for graduate school. Went full time. Graduated from graduate school. Ended up going back to Wall Street because the economy was a little bit crazy. Didn't know what to do, and just continued not to like my job. So someone, I talking to my parents who own that restaurant, and helping them run it. Said, well, there's other options out there. So I explored various options. And prior to doing that, I explored jobs, and maybe a different industry or a different role would make me happier. And I hated the long 5-hour round trip commute. And I just didn't like being a number. I felt like I was a number at some of these larger companies. So when we looked at business, we ruled out with my wife restaurants and a few other things. And there's nothing wrong with restaurants. It just wasn't a good fit for what I was looking for. And the idea of franchising, came up, and Subway was really big and hot at the time, and hooked up with a franchise coach and consultant, which is what I do today. And they walked us through and said, you know what, there's so many options out there. And if you really want to get your time and financial freedom back and be able to coach your kids' soccer practices and all that kind of stuff, you may want to look into a system in place that you can really truly take advantage of. So fast forward, I've been doing this in the franchise world for close to 2 decades, and I love it. I became a soccer coach. Pretty much haven't really missed a soccer game since the kids started playing when they were younger, and just has been it's been life changing, both financially, but more importantly to me was the time to really spend the time. I'm not saying I don't work a lot of hours, which I do. It's just the flexibility to go to events and maybe catch up on the evenings. But it's been life changing, and thank God I went through that process and spoke with those people that I got to meet years and years ago, and it's been great. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's been awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, as a father myself, we have 7 kids and 6
Oh,
grandkids,
wow.
and so family is like really important to me. And so, being able, like you said, Giuseppe, to be able to have that time and like, not just provide for our family,
Mhm.
but to be there for them.
Yeah.
And like you being a coach for your kids and stuff. How awesome is that? You know?
It's a
And
dream. Yeah, dream of mine. Yeah, I said I want to be there for them. My dad and parents worked long hours, so they didn't get to go to all the games. So I just said that's something that I want. If I had
yeah,
to, the perfect scenario, write it out and then kind of work backwards, which is what I teach all our candidates and families we work with.
yeah, that's awesome. What I'd like to do now is just, now we've got a little bit of context here. I want to shift gears. I'm going to reiterate the question for the
Mm.
benefit of the listeners. And have you ever been introduced to a person that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person? And Giuseppe, I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience
Mm.
around this topic.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, been in franchising for a while and always looking to improve myself. So prior to franchising, prior to even college, you heard Tony Robbins back in the day. He was on all those infomercials. I decided to buy his cassettes, and um, that was life changing in what I learned. Just because I didn't know about the self help industry and improving yourself and things to this day, such as periodization, working for 2 hours straight and then, or 1 hour straight, and then taking that 30 minutes off, as opposed to running yourself into the ground, working 4 or 5 hours straight and not being sustainable. It's these little things that I learned. Chunking, to reduce anxiety, and covering, the same topics, such as when I record podcasts, I try to record everything in one day. And then the other 4 days a week, I'm doing other things. So I learned a lot from him, and which led me to a coach, and I believe she had worked at some capacity with Tony Robbins. Her name was Pamela. Her name is not was is Pamela Dunn, and
Okay.
she was great. I had spoken with her on numerous occasions, and she was really that business coach that helped me kind of make the leap into franchising. She helped both business and personal, how to balance everything. She reinforced a lot of what Tony Robbins had to say just about the whole work life balance. Is there truly a balance, or should you kind of restructure your day in a certain way? And the big takeaway, which is what I teach all my families and candidates that I work with, was, you know, putting all the noise and everything aside and really focusing on what you wanted in life. So this is what I help my candidates to do, the exact same thing. Focus on what the ideal schedule is, the ideal life,
Mhm.
and don't worry about how to get there and who's going to get you there, but just let's focus there, what it all looks like, and then work backwards. It's called reverse engineering, and I teach this to every single person that comes to me trying to figure out what if they should own a franchise and what that franchise is. We do the exact same thing, and she really helped me. She said, "Don't worry about the money. We'll figure all that kind of stuff out, but let's figure out what the ideal situation is,
Yeah.
what will truly make you happy, not what, making decisions based off of what you think you'll make more money." And because people fall into that trap, they make decisions based off of what they, where they can make more money. So she's like, put that all aside. So we did that, and we spent several weeks on this process and worked our way backwards to say, okay, now that we know what the ideal situation is in life, how do we get there? And we chunked it just like Tony Robbins, and we broke it down and we put together a plan. And we did, partially was how, and then the other was who. And the big difference between how and who is that who is going to get you there exponentially faster. Just like the book by Dan Sullivan, Who Not How. If you can find a who, it's going to be 10x, 20x, 50x over trying to figure out exactly step by step how to get there. And I'm not saying not to have a plan, but really leveraging someone's experience,
Yeah.
not someone that learned it in a book, but someone that actually grew a business, failed in a business, came back and landed on his feet and did it again. Those were the who's. And Pamela Dunn was one of those who's that helped me along the way. And she had made some introductions over the years. And then we put together that plan. So I think that was crucial. At the time, I didn't know which direction, if I wanted to keep my current business, if I wanted to expand it, if I wanted to add on another business. And she really helped me to break that all down. So it was weekly coaching with weekly coaching calls and then daily emails back and forth, questions, things to work on. And, but it was kind of an all inclusive, which was a game changer to me, because all these great ideas and things I had to do were great. But if I didn't have the energy or just, the reserves to do all this and put in the extra hours. So she even kind of put together a whole thing where, going back to periodization, you making sure you're done by a certain time every day. 6 o'clock was the cutoff. Couldn't do anything afterwards, but you needed to start at a certain time in the morning. And, take into consideration working out and, a little bit of meditation and breathing work and things like that, which is what I still do today. So I thought that was a game changer. So it was more of the principles than anything else, and the way those principles were kind of mapped out into an action, a game plan, something that I can actually follow daily. So that was, I would say, a big, monumental kind of person, in my career. And it's someone that grew her own business. She was extremely successful. It wasn't, you hear somebody, they haven't actually accomplished it themselves. They kind of read it in a book. So that was big for me.
That's awesome. So if you look back
Mhm.
at the relationship that you and Pamela have had, and you look, if you consider like one, maybe two things that took place as a result of the relationship that you and Pamela had, that hands down never would have happened if not for that relationship, what really stands out for you most, Giuseppe?
Standing out is, where it's 2022, right? The
Yep.
information's there. There is more than enough information, and I teach this to everyone. You got all that great information, but knowledge is not power. It's the idea of how to apply this knowledge. It's got to click. Reading 10 books a month is a complete waste of time to me, or even a year if you're not applying anything from it. I would rather someone read the same book 10 times than 10 new books if they're not really absorbing the material. So, that goes into knowledge and what's out there. The difference and the game changer for me was the accountability aspect, and saying, okay, I'm paying, it was a lot of money for me at the time, to go through the coaching program, but it was the accountability factor where I knew I had that call tomorrow at 11 a.m. I better be ready with some updates, or she's really going to, kind of say, well, what have you done all week? What's going on? And I really can't help you if you're not following what we discussed. So accountability is huge. And talking about just the ramifications of not doing this and being in the same position 10 years from now, the what ifs, the should ifs, and not making any type of progress. And I just mentally kind of fast forward 10 years and said, wow, I'd be pretty miserable if I didn't make a shift at the time. So accountability is huge. And the whole idea of work and life is not truly separate. It's all one thing. So how do you, what's this balance? And it's not just, okay, you work from 9 to 5 and then afterwards it's just personal. There's going to be bleeding time and stuff that happens during the day for personal and vice versa. So how do you balance all that? I had employees at the time who is accountable, empowering those employees and things like that. So it was really, how much stuff can we take off my plate so I wasn't overwhelmed, so I can think clearly, and being able to empower my employees to take the stuff off my plate and to hold me accountable as well, and say, hey, we talked about this and we're still waiting on the sign off on the marketing program. Can we get that done today? So accountability, I keep saying the word accountability, but that was the most important part of it, because what I learned, the information's out there in many of the self-help books. You could pick up a Tony Robbins CD, but really focusing on my life and the outcome, and if I didn't follow, what path B would be in 10 years. And that really resonated for me. And I took that knowledge and I do the exact same thing for anyone that I work with. I hold them accountable, and we talk at least every week, and we do the exact same thing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you sharing all that, Giuseppe. And for anybody listening to this, it's just like, man, Kevin, I really like this Giuseppe guy. I like the way he shows up. I like what he's all about. How can they find out more info on what you got going? Any resources or anything like that to offer?
Yeah, so what the website is GG, my initials, because looking at Giuseppe Grammatico is a tough one. So GG The Franchise Guide, and that's GUIDE. So GGthefranchiseguide.com.
Okay.
And everything is laid out. We have a book, which I have a copy of behind me and over here, that you can download for free. So if you like reading, it talks about just how to achieve time and financial freedom. We have a webinar that does a similar thing for people looking to transition from a job to owning a business, or maybe even doing both at the same time. And a podcast, Franchise Freedom, also same title as the book. And really what it is, I have nothing to sell. Our services are free, and really what we do is it's a resource center for people to educate themselves and learn about what business ownership is, specifically franchise ownership, what kind of money you'll need. It's not the millions of dollars that you hear for these large restaurant standalone buildings. They're much more affordable than you think. And it shows you strategies of having the franchise company run the business for you, balancing a job and having a franchise on the side. So it really empowers people to have kind of level the playing field. Everyone has the same knowledge, so that if they think they're a good candidate, we set up a 20-minute call where I learn about you, and we together figure out if it's a good fit. So it's one of the largest financial decisions you'll make next to owning a home. So why go it alone? We assist. The franchise companies pay our fees, and I'm really passionate about helping people, because my one piece of advice is I tell everyone, in making this is a huge decision. All the decision makers should be part of this process. I involved my wife in the process. If you're married, you have kids, bring them all. Maybe they're not on the calls, but if you have children, letting the children know, hey, starting this business so that I can go to your soccer games, but at the same time, I may be working a lot of extra hours the first year until we get to that point. So I do a lot of coaching there, and I hopefully save a lot of relationships, because that's the worst thing, is to buy a business and not tell the spouse, or vice versa. So it really, I give some real life advice and things that I went throughout the entire process.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, Giuseppe, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation, and to honor Pamela for having such a profound impact on your life and on your business, because a lot of things have transpired as a result of that one relationship. And the goal for this podcast has always been twofold: to give guests the opportunity to share their story, their experience around this, and honor somebody who's had such a profound impact on their life and business. And then for the listeners who are also entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs, I just want to inspire them to place an intentional focus on creating more meaningful, real, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their lives.
I love that.
And so we definitely accomplished that today. So thank you for your role in helping make that happen. Really appreciate it. Any last words you want to share before we call it a wrap?
No, I mean, that book, Who Not How, I recommend if you haven't read that before, but it really kind of, to your point, it really stresses the idea of networking and talking to people, getting in front, and avoid picking people's brains, right? I mean, it comes to the point where it's just, you network, you talk to people, you kind of, and you pay it forward, you make an introduction. I try to do that every week, and I need to do a little bit better of a job. But if you feel someone could help someone out, maybe they're an expert in that certain field, make those intros. It means a lot. People really appreciate that. And it's as simple as a quick email or phone call. And we have intros for people on my show, people that can help in my business, and vice versa. So I encourage everyone. And if you see, to all your listeners, anyone that is listening to any of my past shows, if you would like an introduction to any single one of the guests on that show, you send me an email and it's done. I'll make the introduction. I'll be more than glad, whether it be marketing, exit strategy, accounting, or legal. We will make that. I will personally make that introduction if you send me a comment or an email, and you can send me a message or book a call directly on the website. So
that is awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Giuseppe, for that generous offer. Really appreciate it. And thanks again for taking the time to have this conversation.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. It was a blast. Take care.